Good afternoon, my name is Oleg Tamanova, and I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum. It's day 453 of the full-scale offensive of the Russian occupiers on our homeland, and now we will be talking about situation in Mykolaiv region, and joining us online is military governor of Mykolaiv region, Vitalii Kyiv. Good afternoon, Mr. Vitalii. Good afternoon. Nice to see you. Mr. Vitalii, let's start our conversation with the situation in the region. The situation is stable within the last day. We also have no injured. We have some damage which resulted from the shelling off of Kyiv and Katsurubska communities. The enemy shelled them at least thrice. There are damages of gas distribution network, residential areas, and some private vehicles. Our air defense forces downed at least 6 enemy UAVs of Shahed type. They downed something else above the Black Sea, but I don't understand how it happened. Mr. Vitalii, as to the situation with the educational institutions, almost all of them were damaged upon the shelling by the occupiers. What is the solution? Are you going to rebuild them? And what about the admittance campaign? Is it actually planned? Well, thank you for the question. Around a half of the educational institutions are damaged. However, they're being rebuilt at cost of the territorial communities. We followed the program of reconstruction of the shelters, so we can hide or let the children study in there. The situation is not yet solved completely, but we're working on it. So as to the curriculum year, it is planned, right? Well, let me put it this way. I hope that our armed forces will give us the better answer to this question shortly. Thank you for this answer. There is a lot of negotiations about the opening of the Mykolaiv ports shortly. Is there any progress in this area? Yes, from the beginning of the aggression, the ministry and the office of the president were working on having Mykolaiv engaged in the grain corridor operations. So all the statements that I'm hearing about the withdrawal of the ships from the Mykolaiv equator, I don't have any official details so far, so I'm not sure Mykolaiv is getting joined into the grain network shortly, but I cannot confirm it on a formal level just yet. We've seen the statement by the Ministry of Development that Turkey may become a mediator in this process of withdrawal of Turkish vessels from Mykolaiv ports. Is there any movement in this area, any progress right there? Well, my opinion is that all the vessels that wish to leave the equator of Mykolaiv port should be leaving apart from the Russian and Belarusian ones, which are arrested if there are such. But in view of the threat posed by Russians from Kinbur Spit, when we were trying, for example, to move 2 barges which are owned by Nibulon, Russians were posing a threat still. But again, we want to become a safe region, but it all depends on the political decisions. Well, there was information on the mass media recently about the rebuilding of the walking bridge in Snegurivka. So what are the plans and what is actually going on right now? In Snegurivka, you mean? Yes, in Snegurivka. Well, generally I can say that out of 18 bridges and crossings, 15 are almost rebuilt, and we keep moving in that directions. A number of big bridges are rebuilt. In Snegurivka it was more than it was not a bridge, but it was a river crossing rebuilt there. But generally Snegurivka district is being rebuilt quite promptly, and we resumed the business operations there. Well, one of the most sensitive problems with Mykolaiv region is the problem of demining. What are the news in this area? Well, as I mentioned earlier, we move quite quickly, but unfortunately not quick enough. So out of 288,000 hectares planned for this year, only about 50,000 are demined, and one of the biggest problems is that every once in a while the civilians and the deminers, they blow up in the area, in the region, because of the dense nature of mining. We have questions on the floor. Good afternoon, Olga Apanasenko, Ukrinform. Getting back to previous questions, I would like to ask for details about Snegurivka. The agrofusion company is about to rebuild the destroyed industrial facility. Is there any information about the progress of works? What terms are we talking about here? And what are the other big businesses that are about to resume their operations in Mykolaiv region? Thank you for this question. Indeed, in Snegurivka district, agrofusion industrial facility is being rebuilt. There was a session held by Yulia Sinhorenko on this matter, which expedited the process of demining of the fields in this area and adjacent areas. On top of that, agrofusion already starts growing the saplings there. They installed some greenhouses there, and in the plans for rebuilding, they should finish rebuilding by the end of this year and start full-fledged operations by the beginning of the next year. So Agrofusion, PepsiCo, Yantar, and Nibelon are the businesses that are about to resume their operations in the regions, and 5 more big business companies consider the same option. Thank you for this information, but I cannot help but asking about the work on identification and bringing to liability of the traitors. We understand there is this huge social demand for this. What is the progress in this area in the region? To what extent is it effective? Well, it is quite efficient because we see from the formal sources, from the official sources. For example, today one traitor was detained who called the Shahed fire in the region, who cooperated with the Russians. So this work is systemic and consistent in our region. I want to thank our special services who pay special attention to this matter. I know that intelligence works quite efficiently on detection of the collaborationists. And to summarize, I would like to say that the energy security of the region, well, they're talking about the businesses who resumed their operations. So now the wind factory with a total capacity of 114,000 megawatts started its operation recently, and as of March 2023, during the invasion, another 6 turbines were installed and the power plant is recommissioned. So the energy system of Ukraine received another 114 megawatts of capacity during the war. So this is what I used to say: we can continue building, and we should continue building, specifically when it is related to the energy security of the country. And we have another question on the floor. I wanted to ask about the reconstruction of the roads for the grain transportation vehicles. Do we have figures of what is the amount of the grain not exported from Mykolaiv region within the previous year? Well, first of all, the roads were destroyed due to the movement of heavy military material and shelling by the Russian Federation. But we allocated the budget to reconstruct the roads, and the roads are already underway for, I think, the last 2 months. Well, it's regarding the reconstruction of the roads. And what is the second part of the question? Do we have information about the amount of not exported harvest of the previous year, not exported from Mykolaiv region? Well, there is such information, but I cannot keep all the figures in the hand. Unfortunately, I don't remember them, but lack of export from Mykolaiv region, it does not depend on the roads to such an extent as it depends on the economic feasibility and the price of the raw materials. I would rather put it this way: if Mykolaiv ports are open, the amounts of export of grain from Ukraine will increase twice. Mr. Vitalii, thank you for joining our broadcast. I'm reminding you, dear colleagues, joining us was Vitalii Kim, the military governor of Mykolaiv region, and right now our team is working on the schedule for tomorrow, so stay tuned, and we thank our armed forces and continue working together for our victory. Glory to Ukraine.